I was beginning to think this day would never come. Xisco Munoz has been sacked by Sheffield Wednesday. In the words of that now mildly controversial female singer, I believe she is, and that annoying song that was on the radio for quite some time, it's about damn time. This is literally hot off the press. There's not even a club statement yet. The Sheffield Wednesday Twitter have tweeted, breaking, the Owls have parted company with Xisco Munoz, who leaves Hillsborough with immediate effect. Now, we knew earlier today he'd gone into work as normal. It was being reported, but we all have wanted this in the Wednesday fan base. I don't think I saw anybody still supporting him here. The club is an absolute mess, right? And the big question now is what happens next. We've recorded a Talking Wednesday podcast today. There was something in the back of my mind going, just delay it another day. Podcast is already a day late. Record it tomorrow. Yeah, so we've got a podcast talking about why Xisco could go that will probably go up tomorrow afternoon. So please do still watch that. There's a lot of interesting points in that podcast and us despairing about Sheffield Wednesday's situation. However, obviously we hadn't accounted for the fact that he was going to go this soon. I actually say in that podcast, spoiler, I wouldn't be surprised if what we should do is we should sack him. We should sack him before Huddersfield and then either not have a manager, ideally have a manager, but I reckon what could happen is you have the interim manager for Huddersfield, so when Darren Moore comes back up, I thought Chansiri might quite like the idea of Xisco beating Darren Moore, but I think even he realises that's not going to happen now. So probably the cleverest thing to do is have a caretaker manager in for that match. And then if we lose, it's like, well, the club's, going through a change of manager and he can keep some pride, maybe. I really don't know. And just like with breaking news, we have now got an article from the Wednesday website, which reads as follows. Sheffield Wednesday have parted company with Xisco Munoz, who leaves Hillsborough with immediate effect. Xisco's backroom staff Miguel Munoz, Miguel Gamila, Roberto Cuesta Roman and Antonio Brambilla also depart the club. Under-21s manager Neil Thompson will take the team for Saturday's home game against Huddersfield Town in the Championship. The Owls would like to thank Xisco and his staff for their services and wish them well for the future. The process to appoint a new manager is now underway and we will make no further comment at this time. Right, that's one of my worries out of the way. Chansiri made a statement saying he's going to put no additional money into the club. And we were like, does that mean Xisco can't get sacked? Because now you've got to pay him off. So the fact that they have sacked him probably suggests that even Chansiri's, even this state, he's pretty much at odds with a big portion of the fan base at the minute. There's that whole controversy there. Even despite his additional money comment, he couldn't sit back and let Wednesday fall as badly as they have. It was already going too far. I'm surprised he's not gone already. But Xisco Munoz is probably the worst manager I have seen at Wednesday. Ever. Ever. And I would have started to feel sorry for him, but he could have walked. He clearly had no idea what was going on. The club's not in a great shape, don't get me wrong. But do you think Darren Moore would have come in and only got 2 points from the games we played? 2 points in 10? I don't think he would. I think he'd have done a little bit better. So whatever manager comes in now has got to pick up a -13 goal difference. We're already 7 points adrift of safety. But this is the time now. Look, it's 10 games. It's a big season, The reason I'm quite optimistic at this stage about potentially surviving now is there's time. There's time for a manager to come in and actually turn this around. Yes, it's not ideal to be this far from safety already, but it's so early in the season, and with so many points available, it had to happen now. I think Xisco had completely lost the dressing room. The players, they just seemed disenfranchised. They didn't really seem to have any real clue really what the manager was getting at half the time. You could see it on their faces a lot of the time. Heads were down. Players were coming onto the pitch, getting subbed onto the pitch with their heads down, and it's just an absolute mess. Less than like 140 odd days or 150 odd days or whatever it's been less than Wembley and that promotion, nor that content we shared on this channel if you were watching the channel at that point. During that, the club's just completely flipped upside down. But hopefully, I guess this is a step towards the right direction. Don't get me wrong, I'm not optimistic. The owner has said against the fans that they've got no right to ask him to leave, even though years ago he said, if the fans ever want me to leave, I'll leave. And then he's started to butt heads with so many of the fan base. I think it might be too far gone for the owner, personally. I think he's probably said one statement too far this time. And I guess his best course of action, if he is determined to stay as Sheffield Wednesday owner, is to get this next bit right. But this is the tricky thing. It's do or die for Wednesday, really. Who do you bring in? Do you bring in a proven manager that can keep teams up? Do you bring in Neil Warnock, the lifelong Blade, the Blade that once said he would love to have Sheffield Wednesday of his last ever club and retire after he'd relegated them and sold all their best players and that sort of stuff. But he did say that at a time where the Wednesday hate was quite high. Ever since then, he's sort of softened, always talked about his friendly sort of banter with our fans, being that pantomime villain character. And I think, to be honest, I don't think it would be that situation. I would take Warnock at this stage. There is other options. Dean Smith will never work for Chancery, I don't think. But again, like before Xisco was appointed, Dean Smith would have been my option. Can Wednesday pull off a miracle and get someone like Graham Potter? No. But can you imagine the sort of project? It's a hell of a project, isn't it, for someone like that? Interesting, Alan Biggs has just tweeted, Xisco sacked. Understand Neil Warnock would be very attracted to a rescue mission at SWFC, should he be considered. Suspect most fans would accept him at this time. Yes. Yes, I would. It is a rescue mission. And I don't know, right? I know this is really controversial and I'm probably opening myself up to hate from some of the Wednesday fan base, but over the years, hasn't Neil Warnock warmed to people, even Wednesday fans? Like there's always like in recent years, there's always been that thing I've liked about him. I wouldn't be against it, and I think he respects Sheffield. I think he respects, he's a Sheffielder. He respects Sheffield people enough to be aware of how big a club Wednesday is and how important it is. It's important to have that rivalry between the two clubs, and I think he would actually quite like to retire on knowing that he's stabilised a Sheffield club. I think he could be that for us this season. We've got this wrong more than we've got it right. And I guess the one that I could say we got right was a manager I could see coming back. This is something we've also suggested, which we could see for good publicity because he gets on with the fans. And you talk about looking at the past, could it be Carlos? So Carlos Carvalhal, who had that time with Wednesday, nearly getting to the Premier League twice. Wednesday are in a very different situation now, but he's been the only manager, apart from Darren Moore until that fallout, that I can see has had that relationship with the owner. So if it's going to be under Chancery, it's also likely it could be someone like Carlos. Now, Carlos had a big budget. He had a big resources behind him. Would he be able to do it on a lesser budget? I think it would be a clever move, potentially, because it's somebody that comes in and I think all the fans would have time for him now. Because when he got sacked, even I was saying it's probably time to try something else. We were on different levels. We were looking up and he'd missed out twice. But with hindsight, you look at how far Wednesday have fallen since then, I think you'd have those days back. And I know he wouldn't have the same sort of resources, but he just seemed to be able to... He was a likeable character, right? And that goes a long way, especially when Xisco comes in, who's meant to be a likeable character, ends up being quite the opposite, especially in his interviews. What Sheffield Wednesday need now is stability and a plan moving forward. This manager needs to be in soon. There's an international break coming up, so there is a little bit of time to do due diligence and have a think there. But if Chancery's not been thinking about a manager change 5 matches ago, we should be pretty much ready to go. He should already have his list because this wasn't working very early on into the season. There was telltale signs of it. So hopefully we're a little bit further down the road than we usually are with this sort of thing. Thompson taking Huddersfield, it's kind of a free game. We'll see what happens there now. I think Darren Moore will get a good reception back at Hillsborough, and I hope he does. But I'd be really interested to know what you think to this situation, obviously. I've not spoke to some of you for a while. Let me know who you think the next Sheffield Wednesday manager should be. I know there'll probably be a lot about talk about the owner in there. So maybe if you talk about who you'd actually want in, and let's maybe try and leave the World Chancery just has to go, and that has to be the next thing, because I know a lot of you will think that, but maybe we think of some manager suggestions, maybe some managers I've not mentioned in this, and we can talk about, it's going back. We're doing the managerial merry-go-round again, so we will be talking about potential managers for Sheffield Wednesday very soon, I am sure. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But for now, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, do all those things, and keep watching right here on Dexterity Box.